So we actually have some breaking news. The Japan Prime Minister was evacuated after a blast at the speech at Wakayama. This is according to Japanese media. In fact, there's some videos that are already coming out. In fact, this is some scenes afterwards. It looks like maybe possibly the suspect that was taken over here. So I'm going to mute this here real quick, but let me make sure that I'm on here for... what is it? For reasons of, let's see here. Yeah, so just make sure that they have the appropriate rules there. Okay, so check this out. This is nuts. Now, it is a tad quiet. So essentially, there are sirens in the background going off. And I let you guys know, watch Japan. Japan is way more important than many people understand in this future conflict. The former prime minister was taken out by a gentleman with a handmade shoddy. This is now some sort of other attempt, most likely at the prime minister's life. So this is not good. We are going to see most likely more events like this leading up to craziness. So watch Japan is what I've been saying for the last 6 months, and it is getting even crazier there. They, of course, have turned their constitution over overnight. They have changed it to where they will be an offensive country. They are going to be in the top 10 military budgets in the world. So that is a huge change from being neutral or neutral on many things and being a self-defense force. So I don't even know if they'll keep that name. We're going to talk about this and much more. And of course, all of this is linked on our website. Head over there right now to see the syllabus. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. As you saw, there is some breaking news out of Japan. The Prime Minister was evacuated after a blast. And, of course, these were kind of the crazy scenes here that transpired right after, it looks like. So this and other clips are spreading. There were sirens going off, and something happened. If this was an attempt at the Prime Minister's life, these are the kind of things that change the world. These are the kind of things that literally can spark something overnight, especially if they find out something that is crazy that came from this or whoever did it. Of course, they could always have something crazy happen and then cover it up. But we don't know what's going to happen with this. And as things come in, and even in this show, we will update you as more updates are there. So it is a developing story, and of course we will cover that and everything else going on. China banning ships for some sort of falling wreckage that's coming from space. We're going to be talking about, of course, Russia. We're going to talk about also some things that are going on with China and the leaked documents and other objects like hypersonic missiles that have apparently happened last year. So we'll be going over all of that. Let's make sure that we tell the new people, if you haven't already, make sure to go over to the website, to marfooglenews.com. You can find every single link, article, tweet, video, picture, document that we share here on the website. So just go to today's thumbnail, on high alert, Pacific Fleet on high alert, and then once you click on that, you will find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. That way you have the sources for everything that we're doing here, and again, that is very important to us. The link is already there for the tweet if you want to watch that video for yourself. And then at the very bottom, we'll talk about this at the very end. This is all going to be sort of the overflow and all the stuff that could not fit. There is so much craziness going on that the more political stuff ends up down there, and some of the stuff that's not as important. So make sure to go check that out. There is a ton of really crazy stuff going. Some of the stuff is way too important. It's the stuff that essentially will get you in a bar fight if you talk about. So let's go into it. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is happening, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam. Hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So this Japan event, we're gonna watch it live, but it really, there's not much. It said that Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was rushed from a speech after a blast was heard and smoke filled the area on Saturday. The Prime Minister was safe, and a person was detained at the scene at a port of Wakayama. Now, we could find out that this was some sort of like smoke apparatus or something, or it was a prank, or it was something else. I'm sure hoping that. Otherwise, we could find out that this was an attempt at his life, and that would be very, very, very bad. We don't know exactly what is happening yet, but we'll update. Dex, that's pretty crazy. And of course, we've been talking about Japan for a while now. Japan is going to play a way bigger role in the world than people realize, but it will only kind of reveal itself until it happens.
So very true, especially after what happened with Shinzo. So yeah, this is very alarming. Pay attention. See what's going to happen from this.
All right, and then Dex, would you like to go over the future godlike AI could destroy humans or make them obsolete if not properly contained?
So here we go. So this guy is actually, it's a prolific AI investor. So this person has actually invested in numerous AI technology over many years. And he's coming out with his predictions. So he's basically saying exactly what that is. Like a godlike AI would, try to destroy humanity, or at least put us in a position where it would rule us. That's no different than a lot of the other scary stories that we've heard about AI, everything from, nuclear catastrophe to, making us all obsolete. So we just sit around and do nothing. This is kind of, this notion of AI and the fact that we're really about to head off the cliff, so to speak, with this technology and where it's going if it's not stopped soon. If we're what we see today with things like ChatGPT or the images or the voices or the videos and all that stuff, that's been around. It's just we're now getting to see it. So you can only imagine what they have that they haven't released to the public, that they haven't shown any of it. And if that gets out into the wild and starts interconnecting with a lot of our technology, much in the way the internet, when the internet came out, nobody was on it and you had to connect to it, and nothing was connected to the internet. You couldn't find out what your bank statement was because you had to look at a piece of paper. But eventually everything got connected to the internet, and now you basically can't do anything without the internet. And that's what AI is going to that's what's going to happen with AI, is eventually everything's going to get plugged in, leveraging things like the internet, Internet of Things, etc., all of that stuff being interconnected. And that's when I think a lot of the folks, myself included, are worried about the whole doomsday scenario of AI and it getting to that point. But yes, this is yet another obvious expert in the field proclaiming that he is fearful that we're going to get to that point as well.
And as it progresses and we get more and more people that speak out, obviously the fight against this stuff will probably grow. I hope it does. Personally, you guys know my opinion. I know that there are supporters of AI and think that it should be no holds bars, but I know very few of those. Once people start realizing that our lives are going to change drastically because of AI, and it's not just some fictional movie, that this is going to change how everyone lives, then people will start realizing, and I predict that people will start pushing back in the way of protest. People will physically be out on the street at some point when this gets bad enough. The first things I see is people protesting as part of unions because they're losing their jobs to robots. I mean, this sounds crazy, but that actually, I see one of the first most realistic thing is thousands of people on the streets when they pass a bill or something that allows companies to switch over drastically, just cut everybody and go over to AI bots or something. In general, people are going to be losing their jobs, but that's not all. This is going to change how we live, how we travel, how we do everything, how we eat. This AI, if it gets to a certain point, our lives will be with what they predict, which is we will own nothing and be happy, right? How they insert the happy in there, I don't know. Maybe they, by then, will have some sort of dopamine drip or something. I don't know. But that's where they have our future planned. And this is very clear. It's very out there. It's very in the open. All of their plans for the future are all out in the public. And most of you already know about all of these things, the things they want to do by 2030. Again, these are all things that are mostly public right now, but a lot of folks that are just getting into this, they might think that that's a theory, or they might think that that's, crazy talk, or it's just rumors, and the actual thing is this. The actual thing, you can look up at their actual websites, and they're very clear and straightforward with what they're doing. Even at the speeches that they do at the different meetings with Davos and the W and the E and the F, they're very clear with what they're doing. It's pretty blatant what they are planning. And if you look at their goals, you go, well, how are we going to get to that goals? How are we going to get to those goals when we're here right now? Well, the path from there to there is absolutely horrid. So I hope people realize that. Thank you, everybody that is in the chat. Thank you for all of the mods. Make sure to go check them out on marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you, Mav Angel, for the Ninja Genie. It looks like, thank you, Mav. I appreciate that. Imperial Jade, thank you for just following over on DLive. And then thank you over on YouTube. Thank you, everybody that made it so far. Sweatin' Ministries, I appreciate your support last show. Thank you, and thank you. Carol, I appreciate your support on the show, and thank you for being the first one out. Thanks, Carol. Remember love. Well, it's hard to forget with so many awesome people around. All right, and then Taiwan seeks satellite solutions after undersea cables are cut. The undersea cables being cut, which is not a quick fix, this is something that I believed was kind of a sign that something may be happening pretty soon here, because they actually cut the physical lines between certain islands, the internet and hard lines, the landline type things. Well, the internet between these islands and the underwater cables. So now they are looking for different solutions. It says that Taiwanese hostel worker Wang Chuang Zhen's business took a hammering when undersea telecoms lines serving tiny Matsu gosh dang, I cannot talk tonight. And I apologize, guys. This is probably going to be half of the show. I have worked a really long day, and it's especially in the sun. When you're out in the sun, it just fries your brain. So thank you for being patient with me if I say something wrong, or if I just straight up that might be the pronunciation of a couple Russian names, so just keep that in mind. Lines serving the tiny Matsu archipelago were cut on February. It was very inconvenient, said the 35-year-old from Matsu's Bagan Island, where customers struggled to book or pay online due to slow connectivity. We all heavily depend on the internet. The cutoff not only caused headaches for business people such as Wang, it also highlighted Taiwan's digital vulnerability at a time of heightened menace from China. The two cables were severed about 50 kilometers or 30 miles from Matsu in the Taiwan Strait within days of each other. That's why it's hard to say it was a coincidence, because they were totally separate places, totally separate incidents. One, they said it was a commercial fishing boat, and then one said it was like an industrial I think that the other one was a some sort of
Sand dredger.
sand dredgers. Yeah. And then it says, which often drop anchors or scrape the seabed in Taiwanese waters, may have done the damage. May have. It says, I think China is aware of the situation. It would have been easy to restrain such an act of sabotage, but it didn't. Senior lawmaker Chang Yunpen. It says, for its part, China describes itself as a responsible fishing country, and Beijing's foreign ministry has denied the involvement of any of its fishing crews. There have been nearly a dozen such incidents since 2021, and Taiwan's authorities are seeking solutions. If an internet outage can happen for Matsu, could a similar incident happen for the rest of Taiwan? Said Li Wen, director of DPPs. It says, well, cables linking Taiwan's outlying Matsu and Kinmen Islands are shallow enough to be threatened by fishing vessels. Experts say that even the more deeply laid cables alongside the main islands north, west, and south are susceptible to sabotage. So one thing you have to look at is how they have talked about the plans of how they would take the smaller islands first and then go from island to island. They would island hop. All of the drills central to this, including any of their adversaries like us, have been these drills doing these island hopping and these amphibious assault vehicles dropping people from island to island, especially teamed up with Navy support. You look at that and you go, okay, well, you can kind of put two and two together. The plan is for them to take the small islands and then move up. And then after they take the very first one, if the U.S. is not there already to defend, it's essentially, if the U.S. is going to get involved at all, it will be a direct hot war with China to take islands back. They are only about 100 and something miles off, 120 miles off of the coast of Taiwan. China is right there. So they can get there a whole lot quicker than we can if we are not there already. That's why it makes it suspicious that right now China is banning ships for space activity when they didn't care about the other massive rockets spiraling around the world. This one either means something or that's a cover for something else. They're not allowing ships there and they may be using it to bring stuff in or something. But when you cut the internet cables, that cuts communication underneath and the physical communication. Now, they have technology that can knock out the rest of the on-land communications. They have devices, but maybe those devices wouldn't exactly cut those underwater cable, the physical connections between them. The first thing that they do in any kind of invasion or any kind of war is you take out the power and you take out communications. Number one. If you confuse them and have them, run around with their chickens with their heads off, then that's the most successful kind of operation. So it seems to me like this is kind of a sign that this is going to happen way sooner than people think. Not 2027. Dex, I mean, does that make any sense as far as they're cutting these lines and now they're saying that the rest are susceptible, but maybe they might do that at the time of invasion? And they already have kind of this setup where they could go with the smaller islands first.
Well, certainly. And it's the other side of it is that even with moving to satellite, they're still going to be susceptible because we know they have anti-satellite capability. Both them and Vlad have it. They've used it and tested it. So it would be a good backup, I guess, from simple sabotage. And it would obviously require more advanced sabotage if you're taking something out in space. But I think the underwater cables are here to stay, and they're always going to be a vulnerability, and it's absolutely the first thing you're going to see cut when it comes time for full on conflict. I think we would actually see, if a bigger conflict across the globe broke out between the major powers, we're going to probably see that cut in lots of different places.
They've watched our own. They've been watching very carefully because there are underwater cables from the U.S. to Europe, and all of these different cables have had many close scares. They've had these different ships. The Russian ships specifically have a specific kind of submarine that they say could cut the cables, and that they've been floating around it and kind of bluffing or going around it and saying like, oh, we can do this if we want. Other than being there 24/7, there's not much they could do about it. I mean, it's an underwater cable. If they have the ability to go down and they have the ability to cut it, then they can most definitely do it. So how would you protect that? And also, how would you protect the whole length of an underwater cable like that? I mean, I guess you would have to have an entire Navy around it and above it, and have submarines basically fire at anything that comes close. So it's kind of assumed that if we do get in a massive scale war with a major power, especially one with the submarines like this, that we will not have a landline or hard line to the other countries. So we will have to depend on these satellites, and that's where the Operation Starfall comes in as well. Dex, do you remember Operation Starfall? It was something that actually already exists, but they were doing a bill to actually deploy it. I think that bill would actually get passed overnight, or that act would get passed overnight if they needed it right now. And that bill consists of balloons being deployed in less than 24 hours and be ready within in 30 days or something, right?
Yeah, that's correct. They wanted to put the operation in place and have it ready to roll. It sounds like it already exists, but they were looking for the bill to I guess authorize it to be used in short notice and get it ready. And it is a balloon-based system, so it's basically high-altitude balloons that are transmitting network connectivity across areas. So they could launch it if they needed to put coverage on an island, they could launch it there. Or if we lost coverage here across the states, they could launch numerous of them and have them interconnected across the airspace, and that would serve as a form of communication.
By the way, I just tried to find an image. No one has even done kind of an animation of what Operation Starfall would look like. Look at these, I just saw this. Ghost Recon actually did an Operation Starfall. But these Operation Starfall, there'd be these balloons that would be high altitude balloons that would essentially have satellites on them, kind of like the surveillance balloon that we saw China take over our country. It would be like that. I mean, that would be Operation Starfall. Only it would be in mass, and they were able to stay up for something like 45 days. And they even have a system of they would actually bring out trucks, and as it came down, they would have trucks pick them up, pack them up, get them all started up again, and then put them back up. And this system would be able to bring internet to all sorts of places. When they first talked about this, people said, "Oh, that's just for Cuba," because at the time, Cuba's government knocked out their internet. But it wasn't just for Cuba. In fact, it made it very specific. It said for anywhere in the world that they don't have internet. Now, people bring up, Starlink right now, but this wasn't a government-funded thing that would have been the government's solution to this. Outside of Starlink or any of their satellites, they would launch these balloons. So I think something is, they're obviously planning these things with these contingencies in mind. Dex, go ahead.
I got a link to that House bill if you want to pull it up. Nothing's new on it, but if you want to show it, it's in there. The latest update is the same thing we've reported every time we talked about it. It's in the House Arms Committee, I believe, is where it's sitting right now. It has not moved, but it has been referred to the House Committee on Armed Services.
Yeah. So check this out. This is the bill here. Representative Salazar and Maria Elvira. So this is HR 5123. This is the one you'd want to keep track of if you want to follow this. To direct the Secretary of Air Force to develop and begin implementation of Operation Starfall. Doesn't that sound epic? It says not later than 45 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Secretary of Air Force, in consultation with the Chief of Space Operations, shall develop and begin implementation of Operation Starfall, in quotes. Like, it already exists. It would be the implementation of a strategic plan to deploy stratospheric balloons, aerostats, and satellite technology capable of rapidly delivering wireless internet anywhere on the planet from the stratosphere or higher. Now, why do you think they would need that? So this is a plan B, I'm assuming, right? And it's something that they don't need right this second. So I'm assuming that this is something that's already set up. They've done all the paperwork, and when this comes down to it, this will go right in. And it won't be later than 45 days. It will be instant. They'll launch these things and there we go. They already have these things. I guarantee it. It says develop and begin the implementation of Operation Starfall, but they already have this technology. So I bet you they're sitting in some sort of warehouse waiting to go. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then China is to ban ships from the area near Taiwan due to falling rocket wreckage. This, to me, is so sus, okay? And just to translate that from 16-year-old to Gen X. Wait, I don't even know what gens they are now. The baby boomers. That means suspect. I had to learn it from a teenager too, so don't worry. China will ban ships from entering an area north of Taiwan on Sunday due to possible falling rocket wreckage, a provincial maritime authority said days after Beijing conducted large-scale military drills around the self-ruled island. The area around 100 miles from the Taiwanese capital, Taipei, will be closed from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., the Maritime Safety Administration said. It said that it added that vessels would be, quote, forbidden to enter for the duration of the shutdown. This is after the Taiwan's transport ministry said Wednesday that Beijing planned to impose a no-fly zone north of the island due to space activities. And everybody complained about it, and that's what we covered. They complained about it, and then they said, okay, we won't. But now they're banning entrance of ships. They're actually going to enforce it, too, and they're letting people know. Nobody's getting in this area. This is weird, okay? I don't think this is for the safety of boaters, right? It says the air restrictions would be enforced from 9:30 to 9:57 a.m. on Sunday, the ministry said, adding that the zone lies on the convergence area of international routes. China had initially planned a 3-day shutdown, but had relented following objections from Taiwanese authorities. 3 days. They were planning for 3 days. Now, the initial thing says 9 to 3 p.m., so it will be closed for a huge amount of time. But then down here it says the air restrictions will be closed for about 27 minutes, which that's actually not a lot of time. Dex, what do you think about how the air is going to be closed for exactly 27 minutes? Like they know. That's kind of weird, though. Do they know exactly when this thing is going to hit? If it's a thing, right?
Yeah, there's something going on there. It looks like they're planning to do something. And at first, like they said, they were going to block the air for 3 straight days, and then they brought it down to just the 1 day. But now the whole boat restriction and shipping restriction, that's kind of a new spin on it. And I guess they don't have a good history of successfully bringing things down safely, like all of their big rocket launches into space. We always report on how it's randomly going to fall somewhere, and everybody's wondering, is it going to hit them? And so that's unfortunate that they don't have more concern for how they manage that. At least in this scenario, it looks like they're plotting something out under the guise of falling rocket debris, but we don't really know what that really means, other than they quote unquote space activities, as they call it. So I'm assuming this is going to be military based. I'm assuming it's going to be obviously dangerous if they think that they need to block this off, and it also could be a disguise for something else. They may not be telling us everything.
No, and everybody agrees that this is suspicious. This is like something's going on here, and the timing of it, everything about it. Let's see here. Stranger in Strangeland. Nickel Wise, Brian Knight. Hey, nice to see you. JT. Dex does not look like I imagined. Well, you can't see him now. You must have be looking at something else, looking at another video. I agree with Dex, says Anthony Williams. We have Nickel Wise. Thank you. Lord Andrew. Hey, nice to see you. John Ryan. Let me tell you a thing or two about tsunamis. John, anytime somebody says, let me tell you a thing or two, I just imagine a finger wagging. Like, let me tell you a thing or two about tsunamis. In my day, tsunamis were 180 feet, and we would surf them barefoot. Okay. Moving on. China vows not to sell arms to any party in the UKR conflict. Okay. China won't sell weapons to either side in the conflict in UKR. I guess that leaves out technicalities like giving, right? Giving quid pro quo. The country's foreign minister said Friday, responding to Western concerns that Beijing could provide military assistance to Russia. China has maintained that it is neutral in the conflict while backing Russia politically, rhetorically, and economically at the time. But I'm pretty sure that they are supplying something. They're no limits partners. So I think that this is obviously for the public and for PR. Qin Gang is the highest level Chinese official to make such an explicit statement about arms sales to Russia. He added that China would also regulate the export of items with dual civilian and military use. They're trying to look like the good guy publicly. And it's like what they put on paper, that's what will be put in history. And since they've got so many arms around media, I bet a bunch of media will, totally pretend like this is true. It says, regarding the export of military items, China adopts a prudent and responsible attitude, Qin said at a news conference alongside visiting German counterpart Annalena Baerbock. China will not provide weapons to relevant parties of the conflict and manage and control the exports of dual-use items in accordance with laws and regulations. Dual use would be something like a drone. A drone could be used for surveillance, but it can also drop something, right? It could be used for civilian use, and it could be used for something. I'm sure there's plenty of different examples of dual use. Here's the thing. With this, of course, they're going to publicly say this, but this is war. Okay, they're not going to tell when they're secretly pushing weapons around. They're doing all sorts of things in secret. This is kind of funny because they're putting it out there that they're not going to help, but I'm sure they absolutely are. Dex, what do you think? Do you think that China is not going to give them
damage control? This is all about damage control. That leaked information that came out that said that was all the arms were moving under and they wanted to keep it secret. This is absolutely damage control, and I'm in the same boat as you. I have a sneaking suspicion that whatever they say doesn't mean much because they'll probably do it anyway. They may not sell it. They may loan it. They may give it. They may give it to someone else and let them sell it.
Yeah. And the other thing that they do is they just have that third party, right? They'll just have somebody we don't sell it directly to him. We sell them to Bob, and then Bob meets Vlad. Yeah. That's how it goes. And then before we talk about the leaked Pentagon files show that China did some bad. Exactly what they are saying they're not doing. Make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. There is a way that you can protect your vehicles, all of your electronics from an EMP/a CME, a coronal mass ejection, or an electromagnetic pulse, and that is with the use of an EMP Shield. The car version is probably the easiest out of all of the devices. You can put it in less than 10 minutes, and your car will be able to sustain blows from all three phases of an EMP or from a Carrington Level Plus event. So this is a really, really amazing device. It is actually designed, and it is now working with agencies like DHS, DOD, and of course, they are now on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. This device is also $50 off per device when you use our code, and it ends up helping our channel out at the same time. They make them for cars, trucks, ATVs, motorcycles, boats, even generators, and the Flex 1500 from Energy is actually the only solar generator that you can get an EMP Shield for currently. So that is another really awesome positive. You can actually protect your solar generator, and you can protect your home. I just want to remind people, the home version, you want to have an electrician do that, but the good part about that is once you do have it put in your home, it will protect everything plugged in within 250 linear feet. So yeah, obviously you can't put everything into a Faraday box, so this is a lot more convenient. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. The car version definitely is one of the easiest things to do. In less than 15 minutes, you can know that you're going to get home or get out. All right, and then thank you guys for going to any of our affiliates. It helps us out. It really does. Thank you so much. I appreciate you in advance. And then the leaked Pentagon files show that China successfully tested new hypersonic ICBMs, which can evade U.S. defenses. So this puts us at odds. One thing I want to point out, I just saw a really creepy video. You guys might have seen this guy, and I don't know what the public opinion or what our community thinks of him. I can assume, since he's ex-CIA, that people are like, this guy's full of it. but there's a long curly-haired dude. I think he's like, I don't even want to guess on his background. He's tan skin, but he has these long curly hair. He usually wears like this, like, you know, those headbands, and he's got this huge, kind of looks like a surfer dude if you didn't know he was CIA. But he's done a lot of podcasts and things, and he's ex-CIA, and he was talking about how his prediction is by 2033 that China will be the world superpower, and that they will be above the U.S. And they essentially talk about what it will be like in the future with China being the superpower and what it's like now. Like right now, if you are American and if you're in another country, people associate that with money, power, connections, and you actually can get a lot further if you're outside of the United States. And if you're somewhere, if they know you're American, it's like, oh, this person's, you know, this is important, or this person has money, or this person's rich or connected. He says that will change almost overnight, and he said that it won't be a good thing. And he said that if China becomes the world power of the world, him and his wife plan to not be in the United States anymore. Like, it will not be a good thing. So I wonder what you guys think about that. What do you think about China in the next 10 years being the number one country and being kind of where the U.S. is now, where they control everything? It's scary to think about, but when you look at all of the little things that are going into place, it really seems like we are headed towards how they already run their country. If you look at how things are turning into, what things are turning into right now as we are currently sitting here, it's kind of scary to think about. And it makes you think that it's actually happening right under our noses. But again, for them to do this, the reason why this has something to do with this is if they have something that can wipe us out and we don't have a defense against it, that's power. Dex, do you want to go over how the leaked documents, if this is true, if it's true, then that's not good at all.
Well, and specifically with these hypersonic capabilities and the glide vehicles, you know, we've talked a lot about it. That we've had a little bit of this stuff had come out when it happened, but nobody really had much more detail. But if these leaked documents are true, then they're providing a lot more detail and expanding upon the capabilities that we thought they had. It's really showing that they have a much greater capability than we would consider. Being able to maneuver in flight, making, you know, things, you know, obviously hypersonics with the ability to maneuver, it makes it almost impossible to take out because it has the ability to then evade. But the other one is the distance, the amount of distance that was flown with these 12 minutes going about 2,100 kilometers, 1,300 miles. That's a pretty significant distance. And depending on where they're launched from, and if they can go further than that, which we don't know because they only tested a certain amount of it, but you know, this can give them a greater capability of potentially striking the U.S. from their land and definitely from their subs.
And as far as a fractional orbital bombardment system, this is one of the systems that they even think that NK could do, North Korea. And this is something that if it hit us, here's the scary part about this is the first one that they did, this hypersonic that launched then a second hypersonic, which they guess is somewhat like this picture. I'll show you this last one I put up here. I believe, and I can't read what this is saying, but this is what I envision here. They launch like a missile thing, then it releases a second object, and then that second object is a glide vehicle of some sort, and then that hits its target. This even shows 3,700. Basically, they launched one of these, then it launched another thing, then that thing hit where its target was within like 20 miles or something, or maybe it was 20 feet. I don't know. I think it was 20 miles. That sounds more realistic. But what the scary part was is we did not know until after. That means if we didn't know until after, if that was, say, headed towards New York would be wiped out before we realized what happened. That means we wouldn't have a mutually assured destruction because we would be destructed. That's power. And unfortunately, it's power in the wrong hands. This is very freaky stuff. But again, you can't let stuff like this freak you out and scare you, because guess what? You're a human being. So tomorrow you could get any kind of diagnosis without any of this happening. You could cross the street and get taken out. So you can't be afraid of this. This is more for you to have this in the back of your head, to prepare for it, to prepare for basics. Because if this goes down, it might affect our entire world, really. And people should have some sort of basic preparedness plan, especially here in the United States. We're at the top, so we take everything for granted here, but we shouldn't. And you never underestimate your enemy. And that's something that they have done for years, and it's been ingrained in our head to laugh and poo-poo everything they do. I mean, it's currently still the opinion by many that, oh, well, if it's made in China, it won't last long, it will fall apart. But yet, our military has been sending high-tech stuff there, along with all of the militaries of the world have been sending their high-tech weapons there to be manufactured, because when it gets down to it, overall, the bottom line and the bottom dollar is what people cared about. But in the process of that, they sent the most advanced manufacturing gear over to China, gave them the blueprints to things, and said, hey, can you make this for us? In that process, we gave them the power to manufacture some of the most advanced things, and some of which they have a monopoly on. So they only make there. Meanwhile, the U.S. almost makes nothing on their own. They make weapons and stuff. That's a good thing that we do. But there's a lot of stuff that we are dependent on China for. And the things that they are dependent on us for, which surprisingly there were things like soy that they were actually getting from us, they have now done agreements with other countries. Before any of this war went down, they actually traded farmland with Russia so that they could grow the things that they get from us, and that Russia could grow things in China that they get from us. This was planned years ago. This has all been a long-term plan. China's not going to be number two. They have said it publicly. They have been super clear. They feel humiliated being underneath the United States. It is their overall goal to be number one. And they are not going to stop until they do, unless they are forcefully stopped. What do you guys think of that? If you disagree, let me know your opinion. Be polite about it. Let me know in a comment down below. And then Truth Iris, hey, nice to see you here. Let's see, your Cognito Tennessee Mountain Girl, thank you. Sold our military capability of China in the 90s. We consume and create debt. Beatrice Kebab. Amanda Evanson at the Happy Hippie Homestead. Hey, nice to see you. And let's see here. Again, thank you, Kenny Crowder, Heath Spear. Thank you, Bible Talk 777. Thank you. It says Missouri bill HB 1169, very important 2-page bill. I will check it out. I don't know that one off the top of my head. Dex, I don't know what HB 1169 is, but it's Missouri. Let's see here, Dr. Casey. Good night, everyone. It's almost midnight here in Georgia. I love the work you do, Adam Dex. Well, thank you, Dr. Casey, and I hope you watch the replay. There is actually some of the most important stuff has not even been talked about yet. So, again, thank you for sticking around this long. And then Kay Parker Frazier says, hello, Foogle family. Well, thank you, Kay Parker Frazier. I appreciate your support, and thank you for stopping by again. And then Sweatin' Ministries, thank you. Says, God bless you and your channel. Keep up looking up. Christ is coming soon. Keep looking up. Christ is coming soon. Thank you, Sweatinum, and I appreciate that. God bless you. Thank you so much for the support. You don't have to do that, but it is so much appreciated. Thank you so much. Again, thank you. Just as well, you can do a $2 or a $5. Thank you so much. Remember love. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you. And of course, FG Fall. I'm so sorry. I meant to get a hold of you. FG, I think you do have my number. If you can, just text me or call me. Because I am so sorry. I get overwhelmed and I get distracted by my kids or something else or work. So please give me a call. I do want to reach out to you. I know that you wanted to talk. All right. And then Russia puts the Pacific Fleet on high alert. Yeah, definitely stuff that you don't want to miss here. So let's hear. Dex, do you want to go over Russia putting them on high alert?
So yeah, this is kind of crazy. So this is coming from Sergei Shogu, and he said basically that the entire Pacific Fleet has been alerted and put on high alert. That's the quote. It's being done ostensibly in order to assess the state and increase the readiness of the military administration bodies, troops, and forces to carry out their assignments. So during this event, the Pacific Fleet will have to repel massive missile and airstrikes, conduct exercises to search and destroy submarines, perform torpedo launches, artillery firing, and missile launches while engaging surface action groups and land targets of a simulated enemy. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what else they're doing. But this whole notion around putting their entire fleet on high alert is exactly what that is. They've been placed on high alert. And I don't know what more you can say about that other than that's the order they've been given. So if they're on high alert, now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other actions and activities they're doing that probably coincide with this, but nonetheless, they're put on high alert. And we don't always, when you do drills, they don't always put people on high alert. At least we've not necessarily reported that from other drills that have gone on. So that's why this is very interesting and something we want to sort of pay attention to.
At the very least, we need to obviously follow what is happening with this. The thing when things really do hit the fan, I believe we are going to be caught off guard. I think that they think ahead. I think that they're playing 4D chess. I think they realize that people are paying attention. I think in the world of the internet, people are always communicating within seconds. So if the enemy wanted to catch us off guard, they would catch us off guard. Some of this, it almost seems like it wouldn't happen during a drill, right? But history shows that during these drills, the real event has happened, or they have used drills to essentially cover up events that they are doing. You can move military during drills. You can move things without causing great alarm because it's a drill. If the enemy sees you moving around, they go, okay, they're doing a drill. You do 85 drills, and they are all just drills. When they say you're doing a drill, they don't think much of it. They might be heightened a little bit and keep watch, but they're not, mobilizing. That 85th time that they do that drill and they really go in with their full, basically it's just deciding if they're actually going to pull the trigger or not. When they actually pull the trigger, they might not have a full force mobilized because it costs money to mobilize to react to, say, a drill. So this is something that, make sure to share this out to friends and family. My word to friends and family, if you don't watch any other show and you watch this one, have a basic plan. Go look at your supplies. See if you have a couple weeks of food at least. If you have less than a couple weeks, then you are in real trouble. And I'm talking about a couple weeks that you may be able to grab and take with you. They actually recommend that you should have 6 months of food on a minimum. So again, make sure to go, look at your supplies, make sure to have water, make sure to have all sorts of stuff. And then Putin orders test nuke launch on the West in surprise show of strength on an anniversary of the flagship Moskva sinking. So Dex, they're ordering a test launch, but I'm surprised we even hear about it now because they don't ever tell us, right?
Well, right. They don't tell us, but they also put their entire fleet on high alert at the same time. So while these may be coincidental, but they're probably linked, but nonetheless, I mean, this is kind of, if they're going to do something, it's easy for them to say, hey, we're doing a drill or we're ordering a test and then do the real thing. And that's what's scary about this kind of stuff.
Well, think about this. They're saying that they're going to do a test nuke. So we're going to, be low key about it, not so worried about it. And they're putting their entire military on high alert and high readiness. So say they did send one tactical nuke. This is starting World War III. Their entire Navy is on high alert and ready to go. At the same time, during this time period, in just the next couple days, China is going to ban ships from entering a certain area in the whole Taiwan thing. Going back to what Taiwan and Russia, China and Russia both believe, and the U.S. agrees with, is the only way that the U.S. would be beat in a conflict is if the situation is current, the scenario is how it is right now, and we are fighting a two-front war. If we are fighting two major state actors, if we're fighting Russia and China, this isn't me saying this. This is the State Department. This is the Chinese Ministry of Defense. This is the Russian Ministry of Defense. They have all done their own scenarios, and all three have said that the U.S. would lose if we go up against them both. And they're not just doing it U.S. versus them. They're doing NATO versus these guys. They're doing all of it. They're doing every power that we have a grip on versus both. And that is where we would lose. There's lots of different scenarios. Of course, there's scenarios where we win. But the only scenarios that we lose right now currently is where we are fighting a two-front or more war. And if you look at the events with Iran, if you look at what's going on with South Africa, you're looking at what is going on with North Korea and South Korea. You're looking at what's going on with Japan. You're looking at what's going on with China and Taiwan, with India. Something is brewing, and it is big, and you're not crazy for seeing it. That's my point. People need to wake up, and myself, my friends and family around here, and my mods, we're all waiting for this thing to pop off. Like this is real, and people are going to deny it. People don't want to think about this stuff. When you bring this kind of stuff up, it offends people because, kind of like death, people until the last second think that it's not going to happen to them. Nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. And as a whole, all of America acts like this. It can't happen to us. It could never happen to us here. People say, oh, well, we're in the United States. We're geographically safe. How so? That was something they said in the 50s when it was geographically safe. But now they have machines that can make islands in forward operating bases. I don't think so. Now they have technology and fuels that can go 10 times further and faster than they used to. Now they have electronic technology that it won't matter if they're super far away. If they knock out our power grid or something, we're going to be so scrambled trying to get everything back together that they can take their time heading over. I don't personally think that we are, invincible. There has never been a nation that has been. Not forever, at least. And then new member Finland is to take part in NATO's nuclear planning. Dex, why don't you cover this? I'm gonna switch over the monitors here real quick.
So as on cue, we've got they've joined. Once they've joined, they start buying new defense systems. Once they've joined, they start participating in planning, specifically nuclear planning. Now, why is this so important? There's hundreds of miles of border that has now joined NATO. And if they get to a point where they actually consider placing nuclear deterrence, as they would call it, on Finland's land, it's even closer to Vlad and to Moscow and others, and St. Petersburg for sure, as it's from that northern section. So again, this is a huge thing for Vlad. He's not, just the fact that they joined creates a problem, but now that all of the things that go along with it, like building up additional military forces. We'll talk a little bit later about some other things that are happening specifically there on the land around the borders. But this conversation that's going on with NATO about how they may participate in dealing with nuclear deterrence and what that might mean is certainly a sign of showing that they're moving forward, at least to have the conversations and then potentially bring in nukes on their land. Now, mind you, not all NATO members actually have our nukes on them. Not all of them even have them. Some of them do. Some of them have their own, UK and others. But some of them we put them on in their, and there's certain rules about how we would use them, how they're stored, etc., for NATO use. But if this is, if Finland becomes one of those locations, that will be yet again another significant issue for Vlad.
I mean, this is the biggest red line in the planet. They have 810 miles of border on Russia's border. If this, they know where this conversation's going. They know where this is headed. Vlad knows that this is headed towards bringing in nuclear missiles right to his doorstep. In the very beginning, when all of this stuff started, the whole thing was, the narrative that he was putting out there was, hey, we'll pull back our troops, everything, if you guarantee us that there will be no more NATO around us, that there's not going to be another NATO country, and UKR is not going to join. And then now, if you fast forward, now Finland, with, I believe, I don't know if it's a bigger border than UKR, but it's a huge 810-mile border. Now you have NATO on their border. And technically, they could go through the same processes all of the other countries went through, and they could get nukes there. That means nukes, it would be the equivalent of if Russia had nukes in Canada or Russia had nukes in Mexico. It would be something that the U.S. would not let fly. Heck, I mean, this is where it's headed. It's pretty clear. I mean, they telegraph everything. They do these official meetings, but we all know where it's going. And then Finland starts fence on Russian border amid migration. Huh. Funny, because those actually kind of look like trenches in Finland. Well, they're digging for sure. They're going to be putting in a fence. Sounds kind of something like what we said right after they joined. Real quick, before we go into this, I do want to remind you, again, one of my favorite affiliates out of all of these is the solar generators, because this is something that is so useful and is such a lifesaver, especially if you lose your power. It doesn't have to be an SHTF situation to absolutely have a generator come in handy. As far as having power outages or rolling blackouts or a bad storm rolls through, these things come in clutch. Now, right now, for the next couple days, or at least until they run out, the X2, which is all built in one, this has got a stacking sale on it. On top of our special discount, they have a discount on this, so there is a sale, and that will stack. Usually they don't do stacking discounts, and usually they don't really even do many discounts at all. These things are in super high demand. The lithium, as far as is super in high demand, and how these have been shipped out is as they get the lithium in, they manufacture them and they send them out. The X2s have been the most available because it is now the new lithium iron phosphate technology. It lasts a super long time. This has 6,000 charge cycles tested. So essentially you could use this every single day from full to empty for 16 years, and you will still have 80% of the capacity of the battery. Everybody knows if you have lithium ion anything, that over time they can slowly degrade. This is the new lithium iron phosphate. This technology lasts the longest as far as the with very little degradation. So you'll still have essentially what one of the Flex 1500 battery has after 16 years of using this every day, if you use it every day. So these things are awesome. You plug them into solar panels, you put them out in your yard, and then you have power. These things are absolutely amazing. You can store that power, take it with you, take it to work, power a fridge, power a drill. These things are absolutely awesome. And it's UPS built in. It's seamless backup power. So you can actually plug it in, have your fridge plugged into it plugged into your wall, and then when you lose power, it kicks over to this. So these things are absolutely awesome. They come in clutch for so many things. Having them camping or having them at the work site, they are awesome. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. Just to let you know, the X2 now has that sale on top of our discount. And once they run out of this and the LT, then it's going to be a long wait. So then once they're out, they have to wait for lithium again, and then the process starts all over. So good time to get them. And again, also check out the Flex 1500, the modular. All of these are silent. That's one of the best things about these. You can use them inside. You don't have the super loud noise that can be heard 3 blocks away. You don't have to store fuel, and you don't have to buy $5 a gallon gas. It's a huge, huge, huge stealth pro bonus on those. All right, and then Dex, isn't that kind of funny? Some of the photos here look like almost like they're digging trenches. But
yeah, it does. It certainly does look funny. This is tradition. This is not a necessarily a military obstacle. It could be, but it's as they're stating, it is literally a border fence for immigration. And what they're trying to defend against is what happened to Poland from Belarus when they flew in a bunch of people from other parts of the world, gave them visas, and then shipped them across the border there, and caused a problem in Poland with a flood of people that they then had to deal with. So that's what they're trying to protect. They actually started this project before getting into NATO, but it is now that they're in, they're actually getting it off and up and running as far as the building. So it looks like it's about 125 miles so far, at least this first part of the project. It's going to take them till 2026, but it's interesting to say the least. That this is popping up, and they're obviously this is targeted, so they're putting it in key areas where they would potentially see people influx through. So this is a people catcher, not necessarily a tank catcher like we saw in Poland. That's a little different. I would expect, it won't surprise me if we don't see that as well come in, and it won't surprise me, as you predicted, if we start to see trenching and other things come in as well. As things continue to escalate in Europe.
And it says the situation at the Finnish-Russia border has been stable and is stable at the moment. But it says, but this is totally changed. In this totally changed security situation, Finland must have more credible and more independent border control, and Finland needs to be less dependent on the Russian border control. Poland and the Baltic states have already begun erecting fences on their borders with Russia and Belarus following the February 22 invasion. So they are now putting up stuff. This is what a war looks like before a war. I'm sure they know this is coming. And then Russia's prized Spetsnaz commando units have suffered a 95% casualty rate in UKR. Leaked documents and photos show. What's so... Yesterday, there was leaked photos that came out after the initial ones. Dex, do we know if this came out as far as the same leak from this kid that got arrested, or supposedly? Or is this separate? Because I remember the 27... page thing. I don't know if they list the page number, but is this another leak?
They don't list it, but they seem to be attributing it to it. I think all the leaks right now are falling back to that person. I think the original number was something like 100 pages in a couple of different troves. But as we learned from his arrest, they started to tell us that, hey, this stuff had been going on for over a month or many months or even into last year. It's just that the audience was super small and tight that was getting it. And then eventually it broke out. And once it broke out, then everybody started to find out about it.
I
At
think
least that's what they're claiming.
It's just, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, all of the original leaks made the U.S. look bad. It showed that we were spying on other countries that were our allies. It made the numbers look bad in UKR. It tore apart narratives. It showed that we had troops there, which was not a good thing. It showed all sorts of different bad things about what's going on in the conflict. All of a sudden, they said a separate 27-page article came out, leaks came out, and it essentially said some stuff that sounded a lot like Ganda yesterday. And then now this comes out. It's almost as if, just hypothetically, could they have said, here are the real leaks that came out. This makes us look bad. Now they can just keep coming out with supposed leaks. They already have the fall guy, and then they can basically undo a whole lot of this by just keep leaking stuff. Oh, we found a new document, and it actually says that Vlad's dying of cancer, or it says this or that, or intelligence says this, and purposely put that out. And this is, they never let a disaster go to waste. Do you see what I'm saying? It seems to me like they could, hypothetically, this could be separate leaks that somebody typed up Saturday. You know what I'm saying? But this could be true. So Spetsnaz commando units have suffered a 95% casualty rate. Well, I would assume if they're going into conflict, I actually heard that UKR and Russian soldiers, they last like a average of 4 hours on the battlefield or something, or maybe that's just on UKR side. But it says Russia's elite Spetsnaz commando units have suffered an enormous casualty during Russian invasion of UKR, leaked Pentagon documents reveal. So, but by the way, these are the elite units, kind of like SEALs, right? Dex, aren't these like SEALs?
Yeah, it's their special commando
group. They're very small teams. Like the teams range from 6 to 24. 95% could be like if they have deployed 100, or I guess if they even deployed 6 and 5 of them died, then that could be 95%. If they had one unit and a boom boom went off and took out most of them, they could say 95% of them have been taken out. The Department of Defense documents attribute the heavy losses to the reliance of Russian military commanders on the elite units for frontline combat. They are literally saying that these guys are like out of a Roman Hercules movie where they're out in front and they're like, we're super badass guys, we can bend bullets, and they're in front of all the dummies, right? They're sending out their most elite on the front line and having them fire first and lead the like they're one of the elite guys is just an elite drummer. In fact, I think Blink 187 now is short a drummer. He's yeah, you know what I mean? He's just getting them hyped up. Something about that. Something about the new leaks that happened after this all went down. It's like they can pretty much put anything out, and all of it can make things or contradict things. What do you guys think, though? I would love to hear your opinion on it. Let me know in the chat right now. Dex, do you have anything further on the Spetsnaz commandos?
No, but I do have a couple of updates if you want to grab them out of screener.
Okay, so we're going to be updating on Japan, it looks like, right?
That and the volcano.
Oh, shoot. Okay. So we have more breaking news. Let's see here. Okay, so first we'll talk about the Russia volcano. I believe, was this, before I look at this, it was Kamchatka, right? Is that correct?
I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry.
Is it, well, does it kind of sound like that? Kamchatka? Yeah. So ash from Russian volcano reported in areas of Washington, Idaho, forcing cancellation of some flights. Okay, that's creepy.
And it was also in Alaska. So just before this article, a day before, they had reported in Alaska that they had it. So now it's working its way into the mainland of the U.S.
Okay, so you guys remember when we covered this? Excuse me. Remember when we covered this, we talked about how afterwards we would be able to update and see kind of how big this thing was by how far the ash went. It's in my state. Like, that's nuts. That's crazy, Dex. It said that they actually canceled several flights, including Seattle and Spokane, because of ash from this ginormous volcano. That is nuts. Hopefully they didn't inject anything into it. Davros von Scaro says, we have no hope with the JB syndicate in charge with the Mr. Biden. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Davros, and I am rooting for you. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the creators over on DLive. But again, thank you so much for stopping by. Yobi, I'm late for the show, but not for dinner. Hi, all. Hey, thank you, Yobi. So that is the Russian update. Now let's talk about the Japan.
Before you jump to the other one, I just gave you a satellite image. I found one that is from NWS Juneau out of Alaska. It's showing the actual ash cloud heading towards the mainland.
Wow. So this up at the very bottom right-hand corner is my state, Washington, and then this is British Columbia or Canada.
Yeah, and then
Alaska.
Image is from the 14th. So yeah, it's further along now.
Man, how big was this thing? Wow, look at that. That's crazy. I mean, it's bigger than the whole state. I mean, this is Washington. The ash cloud is way bigger than the state. It's as big as California almost. If you're looking at it sideways. That's so crazy. All right, and there was canceled flights here in Seattle. That is really nuts. All right, and then okay, so it looks like there was a pipe object thrown. I'm guessing that they're saying kind of a pipe boom boom. Right? Object thrown near Japan PM. Prime Minister Kishida during speech. Suspect held. It says a man believed to be a suspect who threw a pipe-like object near Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida during his outdoor speech is held by police officers at Saikazaki fishing port in Wakayama and Wakayama Prefecture in southwestern Japan, April 15th. It says a pipe-like object was thrown near Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida while he was delivering an outdoor speech in the western city of Wakayama on Saturday. Japanese media reported. A loud explosion was also heard, but the premier took cover and was unharmed while the police subdued a man at the scene. Footage from the public broadcaster showed crowds of people running away as several police officers appeared to pin an individual to the ground before removing him from the scene. So, is it crazy? What's his name? Shinzo Abe. He was taken out during a speech. In fact, it wasn't a large speech, and he was taken out by a gentleman who homemade a shoddy, homemade straight up, made it at home shotgun. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to thank No One Here Yet who brought us all that Japanese, all the stories from Japan. So,
who is this?
No One Here Yet, who
Oh.
is in chat from time to time and also on Twitter. But yeah, he's a Foogle fan and he sent us plenty of stuff in the past too. But I didn't want to go without giving him credit.
All right. Well, thank you. And then No One Here Yet. Again, thank you so much. There's been a few shows where you've actually brought us some really, really good stuff. So thank you. You are much appreciated. I'm trying to think of the other story that they brought to us. I don't want to assume you're a he, but you've brought us some really good stories. All right, and then Russia trained Belarusian pilots in nuclear weapons use. Dex, do you want to go over this one, and I'll get the next.
So we've been talking a lot about how they were moving tacticals to Belarus. Belarus asked for it. They said they would put them in. They agreed to it. So they were moving them there, and then of course they said they were moving them to the far western borders. So they were as close as possible to the destinations they would use them on, Poland and others. And now what they're saying is they've completed the training for the tacticals that could be used from aircraft. And the Belarusian pilots are now completely trained on how to use that. So that's pretty fast. I don't think, it's probably not that much training if you know how to fly a plane and push the button that launches things. It's probably along the lines of that, but there's probably some little bit of training with it. But at the end of the day, they're done. They're ready to roll. Not only did they get the ground-based stuff there, but they've said now that the pilots are trained and ready to fly. So just another step forward in their fulfillment of their desire to push these tactical nukes to the edge of the western side of Belarus, getting them as close as possible to NATO and to Poland.
So essentially, the steps are done if they were to do something absolutely nuts. And then UKR's Special Operations Forces and other troops deploy HIMARS to strike Russian jamming station. So this is when it begins. Remember, the offensive into Russia would most likely take place after they got all of this gear and all of the reinforcements and all of the different ammunition resupplies. And then it says that UKR's Special Operations Forces have tracked down a Russian Zitel jamming station, and another defense unit has deployed HIMARS to strike it. So I don't know if this is, where do you think this thing is supposed to be? It says, were promptly transmitted to a rocket artillery unit, which knows how to do its job very well. It doesn't really say exactly where this is. Is this in UKR, or are they trying to hit within, not within Crimea maybe, or in Russia? Is this an offensive into Russia? Do we know? It doesn't.
Yeah, we don't know what the coordinates are. I can pretty much assure, based on UKR's past statements, that they rely on the U.S. to give them coordinates because they don't want to waste their HIMARS shots. That's their words. They said that. So I'm assuming they were waiting for us to tell them. But look, this is also on the heels of one of those leaks. I think we talked about it before, that Russia was jamming U.S.-made smart boom booms that were being launched from UKR. So that was coming out of the leaked documents. So this is obviously in response to that. Obviously, there was something going on there that was messing with things and the jamming equipment. So if they've got their coordinates, now they can launch the HIMARS against that jamming facility. We don't know if that's actually inside UKR across the border or somewhere on the other side in Russia.
Yeah, we don't know exactly where it's going to be, but we'll see. And I think this is the beginning of this big, huge offensive, and they're going to change it up. I don't know if the good guys or the bad guys, or this was all an op that they put this leaked out, but they do say that UKR has changed up their whole plan here. All right, and then just 1 second here. Let's see. All right. And I did just drop something in mod chat for you guys right there, so make sure to go check that out. All right, and then two senior Russian officials tried to sabotage Russian invasion to end the conflict. It says a German news agency Tagesspiegel, citing a large-scale leak of a secret U.S. military document, has stated that Valery Gerasimov, chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, and Nikolai Patrushev, secretary of the Russian Security Council, allegedly tried to sabotage the invasion of UKR at the beginning of the conflict so that it would end by the 5th of March 2022. It says, following the New York Times and the other American news outlets, German newspaper Tagesspiegel started to analyze the leaked U.S. Intelligence data that surfaced on the Discord website, focusing on the power struggle in the Kremlin and the alleged subversive plans of some of the Russian leadership. According to the German news agency, the leadership of the Russian army allegedly had a plan to sabotage the conflict, the detriment of Putin. It says one of the U.S. intelligence document allegedly quotes a, quote, well-known Ukrainian source who in turn quotes a Russian source who reportedly has access to the Kremlin. Did you hear that? They quote a well-known Ukrainian source who in turn quotes a Russian source who reportedly has access to the Kremlin, whose cousin's mother was once married to the dude who invented peanut butter. I added that last part, but he did invent something. We don't know if this is, again, you don't know what's Gandu or not, but this is something that's possible, but I don't know how they could have completely sabotaged the whole thing. Dex, you want to comment on that?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. It's just, yeah.
Yes. What's funny, I'm so glad. Let's see here. I'm not seeing the chat is pretty funny. Lord Andrew, what is happening? You holes frijoles. Stephen McMahon, hey, nice to see you. Stop about the leak things. No one knows for sure. Miss Doshona says, honestly, we should stop about this leak thing. No one knows for sure. I think that would be, I think everybody should take everything with a grain of salt. But the leaks are really huge. Even the White House is not denying them. They're saying that they're real and it's a real danger. The leaks are huge. But again, as the leaks come out, I think that we might get more leaks. And if the leaks are fishy, I think you should highly question those. I think you should question all of them. Don't take any of them for granted. But if the leak makes us look bad and we're not denying it, that's kind of scary. But watch, they won't make a statement or deny any of the stuff that makes Vlad look bad, right? Let's see. That's so funny. Mario P. Leaking lies. Schaefer Girl. Hello, Suzanne. Joseph Newhouse. Bleh. Debbie Bartola. What is happening? We've got Brian Griffin. Thank you. Let's see here. Jared West says, I work for a Fortune 100 investment company, especially with high net worth clients with many connections. Seen a lot of money leaving the market and heading to precious metals. What are your thoughts about our economy? Jared, I think precious metals are where it's at. That's my personal opinion. We don't have any kind of precious metal companies as affiliates right now. We did do Noble for a couple months, but it's because I actually believe that people should look into that. I think that gold and silver and metal, ever since I was a kid, I regret not investing in it earlier. My stepdad did, and I've told many people a story about my stepdad who had these crazy silver and gold coins back when they were like 300 an ounce, and he buried them all over when he died, or before he died, he buried them all over the place, and my stepsister ended up paying with college with them. I think that they're great. As far as the economy, I think it's about to go poo-poo, and I think they're covering it up. But that's just my personal opinion. And I think they're all going to point fingers. They distract you more on whose fault it is, but it's still happening. I don't really care whose fault it is. I think that they should just really start preparing people for much harder times. But almost all of the other countries in the world are preparing. There's a lot of countries that are preparing their people, because when our dollar collapses, everybody else's is too. Other countries are even telling people at school, they're telling school children to prepare for the collapse of the dollar. Even Wage's daughter in 16 is in a charter school, I believe, or something where they're treating them like college. Their school is telling them to, stock up and to prepare for a dollar collapse. And you're hearing this like all over the place too. So that's just my personal opinion. And I don't think people should be scared by that. I think people should be like, this is reality. We got to deal with it. Jared West, thank you again for the back-to-back super chats. Appreciate that. Dominic Spiato, Marf, hey, thank you so much for the support. Bus Pants says, thanks for the great content. It's a nice place you've got here. Please keep it up. I check every day. Peace and love to all. We will get through it. I agree. I agree too. Don't be afraid of what's coming. Just take it as it goes. By the way, watch the feed for chickens. Unless you make your own, it can cause them to stop laying eggs. Huh. Well, I know they stop when they get... I learned all sorts of stuff about chickens from my friend Lloyd. He has 8 chickens, and I learned all about it. And then he had a rooster, but since he's in the city, they complained until he had to get rid of it. There's kind of funny stories around that. If anybody has chickens here, let me know in the chat. They're actually pretty funny. I got to hang out with his chickens quite a bit, and they're pretty funny little characters. And then, so what's wrong with the feed? Is it something that you can send me a link on Sweating? Because that would actually be useful for my friends. I have 2 friends that have chickens, but one of them has a bunch. Miss Dragon HB 1169 is for disclosure of the livestock has had a certain in the please contact your lawmakers. Oh, so basically that bill would it stop them from disclosing if the animals have had a in their arms or legs? That's crazy. Jeff Crawford, thank you. Schaefer Girl, thank you. And of course, Bible Talk 777, thank you for bringing that up in the first place. And then a Russian tank captured by UKR forces turns up at a Louisiana truck stop. Dex, how the heck did that happen?
I don't think we know, to be honest. Some of the stuff was actually removed from it, like the machine bang bang, but there still looks like it has some of the armor on it and the armor plates that have explosives in them that cause, it's a way that it uses defense. It blasts that plate when something's coming at it. And they don't know if that's actually been removed, but this was captured by somebody on a vehicle, and they took a picture of it, and they're trying to figure out, like, how did this thing go from being potentially in UKR and then all of a sudden appearing at a truck stop in the US. It's kind of a funny story, I guess, in some regards, because you're like, wow, this is kind of crazy. But they did ask the Red River Depot in New Boston, Texas. The U.S. Army spokesman came out and said, no, it's not coming here. We don't refurbish those here. So it's not them. But they don't know where this tank was going and who had it, why they had it. Obviously, somebody bought it and owns it. And maybe somebody's setting up a bug out location.
It makes me wonder, did the cover off of this thing fly off on the freeway or something? Did they not mean for us to see this? Like, who just rolls down? Did somebody buy it for scrap metal? Or right around the corner, is there a Stanley Kubrick set or something, and they're shooting for the next episode of live TV? That's just super sus. By CK1. And by the way, if you didn't get what it was, but just more extreme every time. And if you have to explain it, it's not funny. Russia lost the first Crimean War because of widespread alcoholism. Drinking is killing their troops in UKR, to Intel shows. This time Intel. Almost exactly 170 years ago, in a battle against Ottoman Empire, Russia suffered a catastrophic defeat in the Crimean War, in part due to the drinking habits taken up by the military during the fighting. Okay, first of all, drinking is worldwide. There is not one country that has it worse than the other. I just think it's funny because I bet UKR in this specific conflict, I bet everybody is doing this activity, especially those on the front lines that have access to it. I find these interesting, all of these pieces out. I kind of see them in the same way as I see the pieces that come out against whoever is the bad people. And not saying that it's not true, but at the same time, I just see all of the narrative building. And it happens, they do it about us too. It goes both ways. They say all sorts of stuff, and I see it. And you just kind of see them like, what is the kind of the point of this? But Dex, they're basically saying that because of alcohol, they're literally losing people left and right.
Oh, and they're saying it's a habitual thing in the sense that they've lost before over it. So come on, I guess what's Russian if you're not drinking vodka, right? That's sort of the stereotype, and I hate to say that, but it sort of is, right? So, but I can't imagine, it's sort of like thinking our guys aren't sitting around kicking back some brewskis at the end of the day. I mean, you're in a stressful environment. You've got to have some downtime. So obviously if it causes you to have inability to perform your job, or you're, doing it to the extent that you're not coherent and can't do anything, and you're just drunk all the time, well, that's obviously a problem. But of course this has got the smells of Ganda all over it, and probably not necessarily representative of the truth, but at the same time, there is a backstory to history around it, which I guess is why they try to bring it up and put it out there.
Here's the thing that I don't like about it. It's about the truth, right? just about the truth in general. They paint a narrative that makes everyone think that all of these adversaries are just complete bumbling idiots. That's underestimating your enemy. And that's something I don't believe in. I do not believe that anyone should underestimate their enemy. They also have done this narration of that UKR are all absolutely saints and that they are heroes and they're brave and it's the will of the people that has won this back and has held back the evil NAZIs. At the same time, you go back 10 years ago, our same newspapers and our same news media would be saying that the same country they're now supporting was those NAZIs. And they changed the narrative with the wind, and it's not only them, it's anybody who's on the bad side of this. They paint these narratives. They want us to think that we're funding this thing and that we're funding it against the bad guys. They're basically saying they're drunkards, they're bastards, they're crimes of humanity. All of them are just horrible people. I think it also makes us feel better about knowing that our dollars are supporting human lives ending, like the fathers over there. By the way, none of the people of the world are the bad people, right? I don't dislike Chinese people. The way that the government runs things, their government is horrible. I don't like Xi. I don't like Vlad. But the people, those are humanly brothers and sisters. Like, they're humans. Those are, in my opinion, they're children of God. And what's unfortunate is that we get this thing where, we're rooting for people to die. We're rooting for people to have, to be impaled in things. That's why I say we're not going to evolve unless something seriously changes, because we will have another war. As long as we still think like the way we do, there's not going to be any change. They paint it that I think this is to make us feel better, that we're, taking something nasty off of the planet. But you know where that's gotten us in the past. So, let's see here. And then Jared West, again, thank you. I appreciate you. And of course, Sweatin' Ministries. Unfortunately, I don't have a link. A friend has chickens in short, made his own feed, no issues, bought some, till he made his own feed. And so problems when he had to buy. I actually believe you. There's so much crap being put in the food now. And that goes back to that HB 1169 thing. They're doing all sorts. Why did all of these new diseases and new things that pop up in the last few years, why are the numbers on, on things like autism, why are things like this going up? The only things that's changed a lot is technology and the food, as far as what would affect us personally. And then Danish Girl, I appreciate you, Adam, Dex J, and Mods. Love to you all and chat. Danish Girl, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for your massive support. Thank you again, like I've said to everybody else. So much appreciated. It's not necessary. You can also break it up. And again, thank you so much. $100 super chat. That is too much to ask for. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting Independent Danish Girl. And then, again, Steve O, thank you for following. A bunch of new followers for some reason. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And thanks for subscribing. And thank you, Davros, Johnson, and Vault. Appreciate you. Let's see here. Dex, let's see here. Before we go over there, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get 25-year shelf life food at a discount, a huge discount, $200 off on a 3-month supply. So if you do want to get something like a 6-month supply going, this would be the most affordable way to do it. And it's going to last 25 years. Freeze-dried food in general has gone up in price. It's tripled in the last 3 years. If you did get this now, in 3 years from now, if it does triple again, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you will not have to purchase it at tomorrow's prices. So again, go to marfooglenews.com/prep. It's a great way to bulk up very fast in a short amount of time for very affordably. Also, there's smaller packages. You can get a go bag. You can get a 72-hour kit. You can get all sorts of kits over there. And again, they're all sealed in Mylar bags and ready to last for over 2 decades. That's marfooglenews.com/prep. Thank you guys for going over there. You'll get a discount and you'll help our channel. Dex, let's go over the web only. We have some crazy, crazy stuff down here.
We certainly do. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link. It's down below in the description. Easy to get to. It'll take you right here. You're going to get to all of the content that we just talked about, including the updated information. Some of that's still going to be posted in a few moments. Some of that's already been posted that we've covered. And then you're going to run into this overflow section. This is the rest of the story. So we put this together for you every night. Got more updates on what's going on in UKR with the conflict, specifically around what other people that are continuing to talk about potentially having Vlad overthrown or taken out. There's also the rules around the conscripts. There's the updates on the leak, specifically around why they don't think it's a big deal for the Pentagon. It may be troubling, but it's unlikely to cause any permanent issues. And then, of course, we've got the updates on the guardsman who was arrested and now went to and made an appearance in court. So all of that information is there. If you want to know what's going on with him, you can. He really looks like a kid to me. There's some information about some interesting things coming out of Xi's country's head of the cat dog cat around CV. I just can't believe that's what they're rolling with, but that's what they're saying. So if you want to know what they're saying, it's there. Of course, we do have some of the updates around the political spectrum and what's happening with, I think Pence is in the news and the whole Fox stuff is still going on. That's there. As well as, unfortunately, somebody on BBC actually had their they were interrupted on air. They suffered a heart issue. So if you're curious about that, all of that's there. The rest of the political spectrum is going on about, who's attacking who with the upcoming stuff for 24. That's all there. I do have some updates on AI, specifically around the risk of using it. There was I think it was chemistry. They were saying an expert was looking into it and said that it was giving bad advice on how to do some sort of chemistry experiments that could cause people to be harmed. So all sorts of weird stuff going on with ChatGPT. And then if you haven't heard of Lemon8, that's a new app, and it's from ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok, which released a new app that apparently is getting a lot of success. So we'll probably hear that in the future because it uses the exact same algorithm as TikTok. So keep that in the back of your head. I imagine you'll hear more about it if they start doing some wonky stuff with it, like they were doing, like they were claiming was happening with TikTok. Escobar had his hippo die in a car crash. Man, that's a weird headline. And so much more, including some updates on the Fenty stuff that's going on about new sanctions that are being imposed, and SpaceX and Elon in the news. All of that's there. So it's literally the rest of the story. Everything else we couldn't get to, supporting an additional articles and documents that go along with some of the stories we talked about. We put it together for you every night. So just head over to the website, marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or click that show notes link right down below in the description. It's easy to get to. It'll take you right here.
Yeah, the Escobar had all sorts of animals, right? It is talking about the different animals and the things. The Escobar hippo, so that's unfortunate. And then Nikki Haley escalates attack against Trump and his baggage. The past is catching up with him. Unfortunately, I actually. I heard a rumor that he actually can't find his baggage. They really don't know. They don't know where it is. I don't know. They'll find it eventually, I'm sure. Anyways, you guys have a great night. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Make sure to sign up to our alerts over at marfooglenews.com. Thank you, everybody, for making it. Thank your mods for keeping it peaceful down there. Thank you for putting up with my messed up reading tonight, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you over on DLive. Thank you over on YouTube. Thank you on Rumble. And thank you, of course, everywhere else. Over on Twitter, if you tweeted, thank you. I didn't see any tweets, so nobody was distracted on Twitter. That was awesome. All right. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. All right, we're going to make a fresh one. Thank you, Danish Girl and Swetnam Ministries. I believe Swetnam is number 1 tonight, but I believe both of you, it's kind of a tie because Danish Girl's been around for so long. So, Swetnam, thank you so much. We're going to make a stupid, silly song of satisfaction for Swetnam Ministries. Thank you, love you, and appreciate you. Hey, baby, it's like I won the lotto. Baby, no girls better than. All right, let's gotta find one I can delete here. Change who you gonna be tomorrow. Never let today's sorrows change who you gonna be tomorrow. If you wanna Hey Parker Fraser and the Heat Spear. You know that man has all you. I was walking down and I Unfortunately, a lot of those were made for a certain person, so I can't delete them. I only have 95 tracks, actually. Well, 4 of them are like pre-done things.